The twin suns of Viga 7 were high in the sky, shining over the newest human Zarine trade colony. It was a peaceful day until Lieutenant Jace Nolan released 3 small metallic beetles inside the main conference room. The Zyrene delegates didn't understand what happened at first. The bugs made chirping sounds and crawled in perfect circles around their feet. For a moment, the tall, insect-like aliens stood still, blinking their wide black eyes. Then one of them stepped back and let out a loud clicking sound. Is this part of the meeting? Jace, standing near the back, tried not to laugh. He'd programmed the beetles to play music when they sensed movement. As the Zyrene moved, the room suddenly filled with cheerful buzzing and a tiny tune that sang, "Hello, I'm your beetle buddy." The other humans in the room stared at Jace. The commander pinched the bridge of his nose and sighed. "Lieutenant Nolan," said, "may I speak with you?" Outside. Outside the conference building, Jace leaned against a wall, still smiling. "Come on, Commander. It was harmless." He made the Zyrene nervous. "They don't understand jokes. Their culture is based on logic and order," the commander explained. "You need to be careful." "We're guests here," Jace nodded. "Understood, sir." But as the commander left, one figure stepped quietly around the corner. It was Scifi, one of the younger Zyrene representatives. She was tall, with light blue skin, large violet eyes, and thin, flexible antennae that twitched as she walked. She looked at Jace with curiosity. "Why did you release fake beetles in the meeting hall?" Jace smiled. "To make people laugh." Scifi blinked. "Why would you want them to do that?" "'Cause it feels good. You should try it sometime." "I do not understand," she said, but her antennae wiggled in interest. That evening, Jace went to the mess hall. He was sitting with a few engineers, telling stories, when Selkie entered the room. She walked straight toward him. "I have a question," she said. "Go ahead." And the beetle said, "I'm your beetle buddy." "Why did you smile?" "Was examining your beetle machines," she said calmly. "I want to understand how you made them sing. You broke into my room. The door was unlocked." "That's not the point." She stood up. "Teach me." Jace stared at her for a moment, then smiled. "You're serious?" "Yes. I wish to understand what it means to be." "Silly." He sat up and stretched. "All right, lesson 1. Humans like jokes. Things that are unexpected or strange. They laugh because it surprises them or makes them feel happy. Do Zyrene laugh?" "No idea. Want to find out?" She gave a small nod. "Yes, I am willing to try." Later that day, Jace brought her to the garden area outside the colony. He had 2 buckets and some water balloons. Scifi watched as he filled one balloon. "This is a test," he said. "When I throw this at you, what do? Move aside." "Wrong." He threw it at her gently. It hit her shoulder and popped with a splash. She froze, shocked. "Did I fail?" she asked. Jace burst out laughing. "No, that's the point." Selkie stood in silence. Then something strange happened. Her face twitched. Not in pain or anger, but something else. Her shoulders shook slightly. "Are you laughing?" Jace asked. "I do not know," she said, "but this feeling, it is not unpleasant." By the end of the day, Selkie had asked Jace to show her more games. She watched as he drew mustaches on the faces in the colony announcement posters, as he hid alarm clocks under the captain's chair, as he taught the cafeteria robot to sing lullabies. Each time she didn't fully understand the purpose, but she smiled more and more. "Lieutenant Nolan," she said seriously, "I believe I am learning." "And what's the lesson so far?" "Humans are strange," she said. "But interesting." Jace winked. "You haven't seen anything yet?" The next few days, Selkie followed Lieutenant Jace Nolan everywhere. She didn't speak. Much she watched. She listened, and most of all she observed how humans smiled and laughed at even the smallest things. When an engineer dropped her sandwich and the others called it a gravity test, they all laughed. Selkie didn't understand what was so funny. It was just a sandwich on the floor. But she noticed something. After they laughed, they looked happier, even the one who lost her lunch. One evening, Selkie sat beside Jace in the observation lounge. The stars were shining through the glass. Some human crew members were watching a comedy show on a screen nearby. A loud voice came from the screen. Knock, knock. Who's there? Interrupting Zyrene? Interrupting Zyre? Click, click, click. The joke was delivered with a loud buzzing sound in fast motion. The humans burst into laughter. Jace chuckled, shaking his head. But Selkie frowned. Was that humorous? The Zyrene did not wait for their turn. Exactly, Jace grinned. That's the joke, but it is not logical. Again, she leaned back slowly, her antennae twitching. Why? So human humor often comes from ignoring logic? Yep. Sometimes the best things in life make no sense at all. The next day, Selkie requested something strange. She walked into the human tech bay, stood in front of Jace, and said, I wish to create a joke. Jace smiled. All right, let's hear it. I have studied. I believe I understand the format. She cleared her throat. Knock, knock. Jace played along. Who's there? Sirius Zyrene. Sirius Zyrene. Who, Sirius Zyrene, are not amused. She stood completely still. Her face showed no emotion. Jace stared for a moment, then laughed loudly. That's perfect. That's hilarious. I was not joking. That made him laugh even harder. Later, the colony's central plaza was filled with both humans and Zyrene preparing for the unity. Wait until you see the reaction, he said. The festival, several Zyrene diplomats bit into the rubber fruits. Squeak. The sound echoed through the plaza. One of the high elders paused, confused, and looked at the fruit. Then another bit into one. Squeak. Selkie stood nearby, watching them closely. A strange feeling rose in her chest. Not discomfort, not confusion. Something lighter, warmer. Then she noticed Jace covering his mouth, trying not to laugh. And finally, she let out a sound. It was soft at first, a low chittering from her throat. Then her shoulders shook. The sound grew louder, clearer. She was laughing. The humans around her turned, surprised. So did the other Zyrene, a Zyrene laughing. That had never happened before. After the event, Selkie and Jace sat on a bench under the stars. That was strange, she admitted. I felt something. It started in my chest. Then I could not stop. Congratulations, Jace said with a proud smile. That was your first laugh. I did not expect it. It was like my thoughts lost control. But it was not scary. That's the fun of it. Selkie looked at her hands. I believe I understand something now. Laughter is not just about confusion. It is about connection. Jace nodded. Exactly. It brings people closer. She looked at him quietly. Then why do others say it is foolish? Because not everyone understands it yet. But you do now. That night, something shifted between the two. They were no longer just alien diplomat and human officer. Selkie stood in the middle of the colony's training hall, her hands behind her back. The Zyrene elders sat in high chairs watching. Jace leaned against the wall nearby, chewing on a snack bar and wondering what was going on. I request the trial of the Minmays, Selkie announced. A murmur went through the hall. One elder leaned forward. Why, young Selkie? To test balance between logic and the new knowledge I have gained. Humor, emotion, play. Another elder said, but the Minmays is not a game. I know. That is why I choose it. Jace stepped forward. Sorry. Can someone explain what the Minmaz is? Selkie turned to him calmly. It is a traditional Zyrene test. A mental puzzle full of traps, symbols, and choices. You walk through it with your mind, not your feet. You must reach the end, or become lost in confusion. Jace raised his eyebrows. Sounds like my school math exams. Later. That day, in the special Minmaz chamber, Jace sat in a viewing room with a few other humans. The room was dark, with glowing panels showing Selkie's brain activity, a Zyrene technician explained. She is inside the maze now. Her body remains still, but her mind is active, walking through the paths, solving challenges. It requires full focus. Jace watched closely. Can she fail? Yes, If her thoughts lose direction, she will be forced to exit early, or risk collapse. He frowned. She didn't tell me that part. Inside the chamber, Scifi stood still, her eyes closed. In her mind, she walked through an invisible world of glowing corridors. Strange symbols floated around her. Some were familiar. Others were twisted symbols of emotion, confusion, laughter. She stepped carefully. Then a doorway appeared before her. Over it, written in Zyrene script, were the words, "Define the unknown." Her mind reached for logic, but nothing happened. Then she remembered Jace's voice. Sometimes the best things in life make no sense at all. She smiled. Unknown, she said out loud, is something not yet understood but still experienced. The door opened. Jace leaned forward. She's doing it right. The technician looked surprised. She passed the first wall. That one confuses most candidates. Jace grinned. That's my girl. Back in the Min maze, Selkie faced another trial. This time, the room was full of mirrors. Each reflection showed a different version of her. One serious, one scared, one laughing, one crying. Words floated in the air. Which one is true? Selkie took a deep breath. All are true. I am not one thing. I am many feelings. One does not erase the others. All the mirrors vanished. Light surrounded her. The path cleared. Finally, she came to the center of the maze. A strange figure stood there. It had no face. Its voice echoed like 1,000 thoughts at once. You have reached the final question, it said. Ask it. Who are you? When no one is watching, the question made her still. She thought of her life before the humans. Came order, rules, silence. Then she thought of the past week. Water balloons, fruit pranks, laughter, and one human who never judged her for smiling. I am Selkie, she said. Zyrene, learner, friend, and I am still becoming more. The maze glowed. She opened her eyes. Another elder frowned. Did this human teach you that? She turned to Jace and nodded. Yes, he confused me, surprised me, made me laugh. But in doing so, he helped me grow. There was silence. Then the eldest among them spoke. Very well, your trial is complete. You're free to choose your path. Later that night, Jace and Selkie walked through the quiet colony. Are you okay? He asked. I am more than okay. I feel clear. You just passed your people's hardest test, and all you got was clarity? She smiled, and something else. Oh, I choose to stay. With you, Jace blinked with me. I am not your student anymore, or your project. I am your companion, playmate. For life, he chuckled. No more tricks. Gave him a look. Only if I start them. They both laughed under the twin moons of Vega-7, the days after the Min maze, were calm. Jace Nolan and Selkie had become well known around the colony. People smiled when they saw them walking together, Human and Zyrene, joking, learning, and sharing things no one thought possible before. Selkie had even started telling her own jokes. Some were strange, but Jace laughed anyway. Everything felt peaceful, until the warning sirens screamed through the sky. The alert came just after sunrise. A message from Colony Command flashed on every screen. Unknown ships approaching. Suspected pirate fleet. All personnel return to quarters. Defense. Systems on standby. Jace rushed to the command center. Selkie followed close behind. Inside. Officers were gathered around a glowing table showing several blinking red dots, enemy ships closing in fast. One officer said, They're heading. Straight for us. Why here? Jace asked. They've attacked colonies before. They steal tech and supplies. Maybe they think we're weak. Selkie stepped forward. We must prepare defense. Are our ships ready? The commander shook. His head, only 3 small patrol crafts are here. The rest are away on escort missions. We can't fight them head on, Jace said. So we outsmart them. The room went quiet. Selkie looked at him. You mean a trick? He grinned. Exactly. The next few hours were busy. Jayak and Selkie worked together, setting up strange devices around the outer edge of the colony. Old cargo crates were stacked in odd shapes. Speakers were hidden inside. Reflective metal sheets were placed to bounce light in confusing ways. The Zyrene engineers didn't understand the plan at first. "This is not defense," one said. "This is chaos. It's human defense," Jace replied.
Oh.
"The kind that confuses enemies until they run away." Even Salki was unsure. "Are you confident this will work?" Jace smiled. "Not at all, but it might," as a pirate. Ships entered the atmosphere. The sky turned dark. The Iron Fang ships were fast and loud, shaped like spiked blades. Then came another sound Salaki's idea. It was the voice of a Zyrene warrior commander, speaking with authority. "Enemy forces detected. Zyrene war fleet arriving. Stand down immediately." The pirates panicked. From the sky, they couldn't tell what was real. Between the flashing lights, echoing warnings, and distorted visuals, they believed they were about to be attacked by a hidden army. 2 ships turned and fled. The last one stayed for a moment longer, scanning. But Jace had one final trick. A flying drone, painted to look like a high-powered weapon, rose into the air. Jace pressed the trigger, and it fired a single, harmless flare. The pirate ship turned and vanished into the clouds. Back in the command room, everyone cheered. "We did it," an officer shouted. Selkie turned to Jace. "Your methods are not traditional. They are effective." "Sometimes confusion is the best weapon," Jace said, "especially when you're outnumbered." The colony was safe. No shots fired, no one hurt. Just well-timed chaos and clever teamwork. Later that evening, the 2 friends sat near the edge of the colony wall, watching the stars return to the sky. "You saved lives today," Selkie said quietly. "We saved lives," Jace corrected. "That fake commander voice of yours was perfect." She looked at him. "I did not think I could ever speak like a warrior." "You're more than you think. You're smart, brave, and fun." She smiled. "I was afraid. But being beside you gave me courage." He looked at her. "Now that's the thing about being a team. We make each other better." There was silence between them, but a good one. A comfortable one. Then Selkie looked up. "There will be more threats in the future," she said. Jace nodded. "Yeah, there always are. Then we must be ready." He raised his hand. Playmate packed. She placed her hand in his. Life. The pirate attack had ended without a single weapon fired. The humans in Zyrene worked together like never before. Word of the great trick defense spread quickly across nearby colonies. Some praised the teamwork. Others laughed in disbelief. But not everyone was happy. 2 days later, the Zyrene High Council sent a message to Vigo 7. A special ship arrived. Carrying 3 senior Zyrene elders, they came to speak with one person. Salki. The meeting was held in the central hall. The room was quiet and cold. Salki stood in the center, her hands at her sides. Behind her, Lieutenant Jace Nolan waited silently, watching the elders with careful eyes. The leading elder, Eldar Vosatan, stepped forward. "You are Salki, daughter of the line Keshtar, trained in logic, tradition, and purpose," he said firmly. "Yes, Elder," she replied. "You passed the Min Maze. You completed your mission, but now we hear stories." He looked directly at her. "They say you speak in human phrases. You join in human activities. You create confusion and laughter." Selkie stood tall. "The stories are true." Whispers spread through the room. Eldar Vosatan narrowed his eyes. "You are Zyrene. We do not waste time with jokes." Data. Jace couldn't stay silent. "Excuse me, sir, but that joke saved your people and ours from a pirate attack." Another elder turned toward him. "You're not part of this discussion, human." Jace stepped back, but Salki raised her hand. "No, he is part of this. He is my bondmate." More whispers. One elder looked alarmed. "You mean you accepted the playmate bond? With a human?" Salki looked at Jace. "Yes, I chose him freely." The elders stared in shock. A few moments passed before Eldar Vosatan spoke again. "You have broken tradition. This is no light matter. You risk being removed from the order and from your duties." Selki's voice was calm but strong. Then I will accept that. The room fell silent. I followed rules all my life, she said. I was loyal. I was quiet. But then I met him, this human. He confused me, yes. But he also showed me something powerful. Joy, freedom, connection. She turned to the others. Why do we fear laughter? Why do we fear change? It does not destroy us. It helps us grow. Outside the meeting hall, a crowd of humans and Zyrene had gathered. They had heard about the council's visit when Salki and Jace stepped outside. They were surprised to hear cheers. Engineers, medics, scientists, even guards all clapped. A few Zyrene even joined their antennae, twitching in support. One young Zyrene officer stepped forward. She made me laugh too. It didn't hurt, it helped. Another said, we should not fear what we do not understand. The elders stood at the door, watching. Selkie turned to them and spoke clearly. No more hiding, no more shame. I am Zyrene. I am different now, and I choose this path. I choose him. No more tricks. I'm his playmate for life. That night, the stars shone brighter than usual. Jace and Salki sat near the edge of the colony garden, looking up at the sky. You really told them off, Jace said with a smile. I did what I felt was right, she replied. Even if they do not understand yet, you might lose everything back home, he said quietly. Selkie nodded. Before, he looked at her, a best friend. She smiled, and a partner. They sat in silence, watching the stars. Then Jace grinned. So, ... what now? We prepare, she said. For what? For what comes next. He said there are always threats. There are also always chances for something new. 2 days later, message arrived from Zyrene Command. The elders had debated for hours after Selki's declaration. The message was short, but surprising. Selki of Keshtar, your bond is acknowledged. Your actions have proven useful. You may remain in your current post. Observation continues. Jace read it twice. They accepted it. He asked. Selki gave a soft nod. For now, that's better than nothing. Much better. She agreed. It means we have time. That evening, the two walked through the colony together, shoulder to shoulder. Zyrene and humans nodded as they passed. No longer strangers. No longer just allies now. Truly, partners. Peace had returned to Vigo 7. But it didn't last long. A new message arrived this time from a distant race known as the Ko. The Ko were tall, sharp-eyed beings with gray skin and strict rules. They had recently joined the Galactic Council, but they didn't trust humans. They believed humor was a sign of weakness. They saw laughter as chaos. And now they wanted to shut down all trade between humans and other species. The message was clear. Human behavior is dangerous. Their presence spreads disorder. We request a council hearing. Humans cannot prove their value. We will vote to remove them from all peaceful zones. When Jace heard the message, he sat back in his chair. So, ... We're getting kicked out for being too fun? It is more serious than it sounds, Selki said. If the vote passes, humans will be blocked from hundreds of worlds. Jace looked at her, and the Zyrene. My people are under pressure. Some still support me, but others fear the child's power. Jace stood. Then we need to show the Kel what humans are really made of. A week later, Selki and Jace arrived at Starpoint 9, the council station orbiting a peaceful blue star. Delegates from over 30 species were present, including humans, Zyrene. The main chamber was round and huge, with shining floors and floating chairs. At the center stood the KL leader, Phaetar, cold and serious. Let us begin, Phaetar said. The human race stands accused of bringing confusion, disorder, and unnecessary emotion to peaceful species. Who speaks for them? Jace stepped forward. I do. Murmurs spread through the room. A single human officer speaking in front of dozens of alien leaders? It was bold. And then beside him, Selki stepped forward too. I speak as witness. She said, I was once like the Collogical, silent and strict. But then, I learned something new. Jace began to speak. When I first came to Vega 7, I played a few jokes. Nothing serious, just harmless fun. But something happened. One Zyrene laughed. He paused and smiled at Selkie, and everything changed. The KL leader frowned. Laughter does not build alliances. Selkie stepped forward. You are wrong. It does, because laughter creates trust, removes fear, it opens the heart. She looked around. I did not lose control. I did not forget my values. I became stronger. Because I learned something from humans' connection. Turned to the crowd. You think jokes are dangerous? But let me ask you, how many of you here have ever solved a crisis with a weapon? Many raised their hands. Now, how many of you have solved a crisis without one by talking, by smiling, by showing kindness? Fewer hands went up. That's the human way, Jace said. You laugh not to escape danger, but to face it. Hope. Vatar crossed his arms. Words are easy. Do you have proof? Selkie nodded. Yes, we asked permission to show you a short demonstration. The council allowed it. A small platform was prepared in the center of the room. Lights dimmed. Then, a group of humans and Zyrene, including Salka, began performing a live comedy skit. They acted out the great trick defense from Vega 7. Using simple props and exaggerated movements. At first, the council just watched. Then, a few smiles appeared, a chuckle here. Sometimes, the best way to fight fear is with joy. After the demonstration, silence filled the chamber. Then, slowly, one delegate stood. It was a Tyrell, a water-based species. I vote to keep humanity in the council, it said. They remind us we are more than machines. Then another stood, and another. The cow remained silent, but did not argue. Finally, Vader gave a slow nod. Your methods are strange, he said, but today you proved something. Outside the council chamber, Jace and Selkie stood together, watching ships. Move through the stars, you did it, she said. We did it, he replied. She looked thoughtful. Do you think the cow will ever laugh? He smirked. Maybe not today, but someday, when they're alone in their room, and they remember. That rubber fruit trick? Maybe. Selkie let out a light chitter. You always surprise me. That's what I'm here for, Jace said. No more tricks, she smiled. Only the good kind. They looked up at the stars united, hopeful and ready for whatever came next. The stars of the galaxy seemed brighter now. The vote at Starpoint 9 was over. Cole had stepped back. Humans were accepted again, not just as workers or traders, but as something more, as bringers of connection, of laughter, of life. For Jace Nolan and Selkie, everything had changed. A week later, a new announcement came from the Galactic Council. It named Jace and Selkie as the first official interspecies liaison team. Their job, travel to other worlds, solve problems, and build peace between species. Together, Jace blinked when he read it. We're space diplomats now? Not just diplomats, Selkie said, but examples of what? She looked at him. Of what can happen when two very different minds learn to trust each other. Jace grinned. I liked it better when we just threw water balloons. Nodded. We can still do that. Their ship was small but strong. Painted silver and blue, the custom name on the side, Unity 1. A name Selkie chose herself. Before leaving Vega 7, the crowd came to see them off. Human engineers, Zyrene officers, even a few curious children. Everyone clapped as the ship lifted gently from the launch pad. Jack waved through the window. We'll come back, he promised. Selkie nodded beside him. Only after making a few new friends. Their first mission took them to Clarify, a planet where two native species had stopped speaking to each other after a mining dispute. For years, both sides had lived in silence, only using machines to talk. Never face to face. Jace and Selkie landed with no weapons, no soldiers. Just a bag of old Earth comedy videos, some funny hats, and a translator drone with a sense of humor. At first the locals were confused. Then one night, Jace set up a small outdoor screen. The two sides gathered, curious. It showed humans slipping on ice, wearing silly wigs, and acting like confused robots. There was silence. Then a chuckle. Then more. By the end, both groups were laughing together for the first time in years later. Scifi said, "You really believe laughter can heal anything?" Jace smiled. Maybe not everything. Their next mission was harder. A planet in distress, caught between two empires. A small colony was asking for protection, but both empires refused to speak to each other. Jace and Selkie stepped in. This time, there were no jokes. Only calm voices, patient listening, and stories. Jace told them how humans once fought wars too, but later built peace through shared memories. Selkie shared her own journey. From silence to laughter, from tradition to friendship, it wasn't easy. But by the third day, both empires agreed to sit at the same table for the first time in a century. One night aboard Unity 1. Jace sat by the window watching stars streak. Past Selkie joined him. "Do you miss Vega 7? She asked. "Sometimes, but this is good." She nodded. "I've never traveled so far, but I do not feel lost. That's because we're not alone." They sat in silence for a while. Then, Selkie reached into her small storage box and pulled out a surprise. A beetle robot, just like the one Jace used in the old days only. This one wore a tiny green warrior helmet. Jack laughed. "You kept it." "I rebuilt it," she said. "I thought we might need a reminder." He tapped the little robot and it chirped. "Hello? I'm your beetle buddy." They both laughed in the months that followed. Unity 1 visited dozens of worlds. They solved border disputes with silly role plays. They helped alien chefs compete. In a peaceful cook-off, instead of fighting over spice rights, they even hosted a first galactic talent show, where Selkie performed a dramatic reading of Zyrene poetry, while Jace played sound effects in the background. Some missions were serious. Others were light, but each one brought change. Slow, gentle change. The kind that started with a story or a smile. One message came through late one evening. It was from Zyrene High Command. "We have reviewed Selkie's reports, her actions. Have improved diplomatic relations in 12 systems. We officially approve the bond. Playmate status. Recognized." Ace read the message aloud and raised an eyebrow. "So it's official now?" Selkie nodded. "It always was, but now, ... it is written." He leaned back in his seat. "Not bad for a dangerous human influence, huh?" She tilted her head. "You were dangerous. Just not in the way they thought." As their ship sailed quietly through the stars, Jace looked ahead at the glowing galaxy. "Where to next?" he asked. Selkie tapped the controls. "Wherever the next laugh is needed." They shared a smile. And in the quiet of space, two unlikely friends, one playful human and one serious alien, continued their journey together against the galaxy. And with no more tricks, ... just trust.